The first thing Linda noticed was the chain. Not the man. Not the smell of damp concrete and rusted metal. Not even the yellow bulb swaying slightly above her head. The chain came first. It was wrapped around him like a cruel imitation of clothing, looped over his shoulders, cinched across his chest, biting into his arms, weighing down his torso. Excess links spilled onto the floor like something alive, cold and patient. It looked less like restraint and more like ownership. And then he lifted his head. Very slowly. As if even that small movement cost him something he didn't have left. His eyes found hers. And in that moment, before fear, before questions, before sense, Linda knew one thing with terrifying clarity. He had been waiting for someone. Linda froze mid-step on the concrete stairs, one foot hovering above the next stair down, her body caught between instinct and disbelief. Her breath stopped halfway into her chest. The tray she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and clattered against the wall, the sound echoing sharply through the basement. The man didn't flinch. He didn't beg. He didn't speak. He just looked at her with eyes so tired they barely seemed human anymore. The yellow bulb above him flickered once, then steadied, bathing the room in a sickly warmth that made everything feel too close, too real. Cobwebs trembled near the light, dust drifting lazily through the air as if time itself had slowed down to watch this moment happen. Linda had been working the late shift. Again. It wasn't supposed to end like this. Before the fear could fully take hold, before her legs remembered they could move, a calm voice broke the silence. "Before you scream," the man said hoarsely, his voice rough like it hadn't been used in days. "Maybe longer. Please listen." Her heart slammed violently against her ribs. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She should have. Instead, Linda took one step down. Then another. And just like that, her life split cleanly into two halves, everything before the basement, and everything after. Before that night, Linda's world had been small. Predictable. She worked double shifts at a restaurant tucked beneath a luxury hotel, one of those places where expensive suits passed through daily and no one ever remembered the names of the staff. She wore the same blue uniform every day, pressed and clean, her hair pulled back tight, her smile practiced enough to pass without inviting attention. She had learned early that invisibility was a kind of safety. Most nights, the job ended quietly. Wipe down counters. Stack chairs. Lock up. Go home tired but intact. That night, the manager had asked her to take a tray down to the basement storage room. A simple request. No drama. No warning. Just drop it off and come back up, he'd said, already distracted by his phone. Linda remembered rolling her eyes as she'd headed toward the stairs. The basement always smelled wrong. Old water, metal, something sour she couldn't name. The light down there flickered sometimes, and the walls were cracked with age, pipes running like veins along the ceiling. Still, it was just another task. Until it wasn't. Because storage rooms don't have chains. They don't have men bound so tightly they look like they've been folded in on themselves. They don't have eyes like his. He sat slumped against the wall, his back pressed to cold concrete, his legs bent awkwardly as if they'd given up before the rest of him had. His white shirt, once expensive, Linda could tell even through the dirt, was torn at the sleeves, stained with sweat and grime, clinging to his chest and shoulders like it had been glued there. His hands rested uselessly in his lap, wrapped in metal. Not just his wrists. Everything. The chain crossed his torso, bit into his arms, looped around his waist. It pulled him forward slightly, forcing his posture into something permanently defeated. Even breathing looked like work. He was young. That was the strangest part. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, features that would have belonged on billboards in another life. Even now, even like this, there was no denying it. He was handsome. Or he had been. Now, exhaustion had hollowed him out. Dark circles carved shadows beneath his eyes. Sweat traced slow lines down his temples. His hair clung messily to his forehead, damp and unkempt. Dirt smudged his skin, but it couldn't hide what he was underneath. Linda swallowed hard. Who did this to you?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. The question seemed to cost him something. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, there was a flicker of something there. Pain, yes, but also calculation. "They'll know you came down here," he said quietly. "Sooner than you think." Her stomach dropped. "Who?" Linda demanded, panic creeping into her voice now. "Who will know?" He shifted slightly, the chain scraping against the concrete with a sound that made her flinch. "The people who put me here." That was when Linda noticed the bruising. Faint but there. Along his arms. His ribs. The side of his neck, where the collar of his shirt had been ripped open. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional. She took another step down, her back brushing the cold wall as she tried to keep distance between them, between herself and the reality settling in her chest. "Why are you here?" Linda asked. He hesitated. Then, finally, he said the words that changed everything. "Because I am supposed to be dead." If you're watching this right now, take a second. Make sure you're subscribed, because stories like this only get darker from here. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and the time you're watching. Because what you're about to hear next, it's not something you forget easily. Linda stared at him, her mind scrambling to catch up. "Dead. That doesn't make any sense," she said. "If you're supposed to be." "They killed the man the world knew," he interrupted softly. "Not me." The bulb flickered again, throwing his face briefly into shadow. When the light returned, his expression hadn't changed, but something else had. Urgency. "They'll come back," he said. "And when they do, they won't care that you're just a waitress." The word hit her harder than she expected. "Just don't talk to me like you know me," Linda snapped, anger flaring instinctively to cover the fear. "I don't even know your name." A corner of his mouth twitched, almost like a smile that never quite made it. "That's safer," he said. "For you." Her hands curled into fists. "You're chained up in a basement," she said. "You don't get to decide what's safe." Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. Then he leaned his head back against the wall, his breath shuddering as if the strength was draining out of him faster than before. "Please," Kong Jun-suk said quietly. "I need water." The word please landed differently. Not desperate. Not manipulative. Just human. Linda hesitated. Every instinct told her to run. To scream. To go upstairs and pretend she'd never seen this place. But another thought crept in, unwanted and dangerous. If she left him like this. She glanced at the chain again. At the way it cut into his body. At how little room it left for hope. Her throat tightened. "I'll be right back," Linda said, already hating herself for the promise. His eyes snapped open. "Don't," Kong Jun-suk said sharply. The effort made him cough, his body jerking against the chain. "If you go upstairs and ask questions, they'll notice. You have to act normal." "I can't just." "There's a sink," he said. "Behind you. Old pipe. It still works." She turned slowly. There it was. Rust-stained, forgotten, like everything else down here. She filled a cup with shaking hands, the sound of running water echoing too loudly in the small space. Each second felt dangerous, stretched thin, as if someone might walk in at any moment. When she turned back, Kong Jun-suk was watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. She crouched, careful to stay out of reach, and held the cup to his lips. He drank like someone who hadn't tasted water in days. Which told her everything she needed to know. "How long?" Linda asked softly. He didn't answer right away. His eyes drifted past her, unfocused, as if measuring time by something other than clocks. Then, barely audible, he said, "Long enough." As he drank, Linda noticed something else. A tattoo. Partially hidden beneath the torn collar of his shirt, dark ink curved along the side of his neck. She recognized it instantly, not because she knew the design, but because she'd seen it before. On television. On the news. On screens mounted above the bar, whispered about whenever his name appeared. Her breath caught. "No," Linda whispered. His eyes lifted to hers again. Recognition flickered there. "You know," Kong Jun-suk said. Her knees went weak. Because suddenly, the basement didn't just contain a chained man. It contained a name that had once filled headlines. A figure whispered about in backrooms and board meetings. A man tied to power, money, and violence so deep it reached across continents. A man everyone believed was gone. Kang Jun-suk, the Korean Mafia boss. And Linda was standing alone in a basement with him. Chained, broken, and very much alive. The light hummed overhead. Footsteps sounded faintly above. And somewhere deep in Linda's chest, fear finally found its voice. Before we go any further, take a moment. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next only gets more dangerous. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and the time you're watching. Now let's continue. The footsteps above didn't stop. That was the first thing Linda noticed. They didn't pause. They didn't hesitate. They moved with the careless rhythm of someone who had no idea what waited beneath their feet. Her spine stiffened. Kang Jun-suk noticed it immediately. "Someone's coming," Linda whispered, panic tightening her throat. His jaw clenched. The muscles in his neck strained against the chain as he tried to shift, as if movement alone might make him smaller, less visible, less real. "Listen to me," Kang Jun-suk said urgently. "You have to leave. Now." "I can't just." "You can," he interrupted. "And you should. Because if they see you down here with me, you don't get to walk away." The footsteps grew louder. Linda glanced toward the stairs. The shadow at the top wavered, stretching across the concrete wall like a warning. Her heart hammered. "What if they hear us?" she hissed. "They won't," Kang Jun-suk said, forcing calm into his voice. "They never come all the way down. They don't like this place." As if summoned by the words, the bulb flickered again. Her breath hitched. The footsteps slowed. Stopped. For a long, unbearable second, neither of them moved. Then a voice drifted down from above. "Anyone down there?" Linda's blood turned cold. It was the night supervisor. She recognized the tone, bored, impatient, already annoyed at having to check. She opened her mouth to answer. Kang Jun-suk shook his head sharply. "No," he mouthed. She swallowed. I'm just grabbing cleaning supplies," Linda called up, her voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. "I'll be up in a second." Silence. Then a sigh. "Don't take all night," the voice said. "We're closing." Footsteps retreated. Only when they faded completely did Linda realize she'd been holding her breath. Her knees threatened to give out. She slid down onto the lowest stair, her back pressed against the wall, her pulse roaring in her ears. "That was too close," she whispered. "Yes," Kang Jun-suk said softly. "And it won't be the last time." Linda looked at him then, really looked. At the way his shoulders sagged with exhaustion. At how his hands trembled faintly, whether from weakness or cold she couldn't tell. At the dark stains on the concrete beneath him, water and sweat mixing into something indistinguishable. "How long have you been down here?" Linda asked again. "This time," he answered. 4 days, Kang Jun-suk said. Her stomach twisted. "No food." A pause. "Once," he admitted. "The first night. And water." He glanced toward the sink. "Not much." Linda felt something crack inside her. 4 days. Chained. Hidden beneath a luxury hotel where people paid thousands a night for comfort and safety. "How are you still?" Her voice trailed off. "Alive." Kang Jun-suk finished quietly. She nodded. His lips pressed together, as if he were weighing how much truth to give her. "Because they need me alive," he said finally. "For now." That word echoed ominously. "For now." "Who are they?" Linda asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, his gaze drifted past her, unfocused, as if replaying something he'd rather forget. "The kind of people who don't forgive," Kang Jun-suk said. "And don't forget." Linda hugged her arms around herself. "You said they killed the man the world knew," she said. "What does that mean?" "It means," he replied slowly, "that my death was very public, very convincing, and very useful." "Useful to who?" To everyone who needed me gone, Kong Jun-suk said. And to the few who needed me quiet. A chill crept up Linda's spine. You're saying your death was staged? Yes. By your enemies? He let out a humorless breath. By my allies. The word landed like a blow. Allies don't do this, Linda said weakly, gesturing at the chain. They do, Kong Jun-suk replied, when power is on the line. Her mind reeled. She'd grown up hearing stories, whispers about crime families, about men who ruled from the shadows. She'd dismissed them as exaggerations, distant dangers that belonged to other worlds. Now one of those stories was sitting 10 feet away from her, wrapped in metal, bleeding quietly into the floor. Why tell me all this? Linda asked. Because, Kong Jun-suk said, meeting her eyes, you're already involved. She shook her head. No. I just found you. That's all. He watched her carefully. If you walk away, he said, and pretend this never happened, I will be gone by morning. Her chest tightened. You mean freed? He didn't smile. I mean removed. The implication was clear. Dead. Again. And what happens to me? Linda asked. Nothing, Kong Jun-suk said. If you're lucky. Her laugh came out sharp and brittle. You don't sound very confident. I'm not, he admitted. Linda stood abruptly, pacing the small space between the stairs and the wall. This is insane, she muttered. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't even be talking to you. Yet you are, Kong Jun-suk said gently. She stopped, turned back to him. Why me? Linda demanded. Why not someone else? Anyone else? He hesitated. Then carefully he said, because you don't exist to them. She frowned. What? You're not on their radar, Kong Jun-suk explained. You're not powerful. You're not important. You're invisible. The words stung, even though she knew they were true. That's why you're alive, he continued. And that's why you're dangerous. Linda stared at him. You want me to help you, she said. Yes. How? His eyes darkened. I need you to get a message out, Kong Jun-suk said. To someone who thinks I'm dead. Her heart sank. No. If they know I'm alive. No, Linda repeated, louder this time. I'm not getting involved in whatever this is. His expression hardened. You already are. Footsteps echoed above again. This time, faster, urgent. Voices overlapped, sharp, unfamiliar. Her breath caught. What's happening? Linda whispered. Kong Jun-suk strained against the chain, listening. They're early, he said. Fear exploded in her chest. You said morning. I said for now, he corrected. Looks like now just ended. The voices moved closer. Keys jingled. A door slammed. Someone laughed. Linda's hands shook uncontrollably. What do I do? She asked. Kong Jun-suk locked eyes with her. You choose, he said. Right now. Choose what? Whether you leave, he said, or whether you help me. The sound of footsteps on the stairs froze her blood. They're coming down, Linda whispered. Yes, Kong Jun-suk said. She backed toward the stairs, torn between terror and something else, something heavier. Guilt. If she left, she'd be safe. Probably. If she stayed, everything changed. Her foot hit the first step. Then she stopped. Because Kong Jun-suk said her name. Softly. Not the name on her uniform. Her real name. The one she never used at work. Linda's world tilted. How do you know that? She whispered. His eyes searched her face. Because, Kong Jun-suk said, this isn't the first time our lives have crossed. The footsteps reached the landing above. A shadow fell across the wall. Her pulse thundered. What do you mean? Linda demanded. There was a girl, Kong Jun-suk said quickly. Years ago. Different city. Different life. She worked in a place like this. Her breath caught. She looked at me once, he continued. Like I was human. Not power. Not fear. Just a man. The voice above barked an order. Keys rattled. The door creaked open. You don't remember, Kang Jun-suk said. But I do. Linda's vision blurred. Move! Someone shouted from above. She had seconds. Her mind screamed at her to run. Her body refused. Because suddenly, this wasn't just a man in chains. This was a past she'd buried. A moment she'd forgotten. And a choice she couldn't escape. The chain rattled as Kang Jun-suk shifted. Please, he said. If they take me now, you die too. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But you'll never be safe again. The footsteps descended. One step. Then another. Her heart pounded. Linda made her decision. And stepped away from the stairs. Before we go any further, pause for a moment. If you're enjoying this story and you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because from here on, nothing stays hidden. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and the time you're watching. Now let's continue. The door at the top of the stairs creaked open wider. Light spilled downward in a harsh white stripe, cutting through the yellow glow of the basement bulb. Voices followed, low, confident, unhurried. The kind of voices that belonged to people who knew they were in control. Linda felt it immediately. The shift. The air changed, heavy with intent. Her back pressed against the wall as two men appeared at the top of the stairs. They wore dark suits, clean shoes, faces carefully blank. Not security. Not staff. These men did not belong to the building. They belonged to him. Or at least they used to. Park Min-ho descended slowly, one hand resting casually on the railing. His gaze flicked to Linda's uniform, then dismissed her just as quickly. She shouldn't be here, Park Min-ho said. Lee Sang-woo stopped one step above him, his eyes scanning the basement with clinical interest. When he saw the chained figure at the bottom, his lips curved into something resembling satisfaction. She found him, Lee Sang-woo said. That's inconvenient. Linda's chest tightened. I was just, she began. Quiet, Park Min-ho said without raising his voice. She fell silent. Kang Jun-suk lifted his head with visible effort. His breathing grew shallow, controlled, as if he were bracing himself for impact. So, Kang Jun-suk said hoarsely. You came yourselves. Park Min-ho smiled thinly. You weren't supposed to last this long. Lee Sang-woo stepped down another stair. But you always were difficult, he added. Linda glanced between them, her heart pounding so hard she was sure they could hear it. Every instinct screamed at her to disappear, to shrink, to become invisible again. But invisibility wouldn't save her now. What's going to happen? Linda asked, her voice trembling. Park Min-ho finally looked at her properly. That depends, he said, on how cooperative you are. Kang Jun-suk's jaw tightened. She doesn't know anything, he said. Let her go. Lee Sang-woo chuckled softly. She knows you're alive, he replied. That's already too much. Park Min-ho's gaze dropped to the chain, then back to the man bound within it. You had one job, he said calmly. Stay dead. Silence settled, thick and suffocating. You staged my death, Kang Jun-suk said. Used me as a symbol. And when I stopped being useful, you locked me in a basement like garbage. Lee Sang-woo shrugged. You were a liability. Linda felt the weight of those words settle into her bones. Liability. Human lives reduced to inconvenience. Her breath came faster. Please, Linda said, surprising herself. I didn't mean to. Enough, Park Min-ho snapped. This doesn't concern you. It concerns her now, Kang Jun-suk said quietly. You made sure of that. Lee Sang-woo's eyes flicked toward him, irritation flashing briefly before being smoothed away. Always dramatic, he muttered. He turned back to Linda. You're going to forget what you saw here, Lee Sang-woo said. You're going to go upstairs, finish your shift, and go home. And tomorrow, this place will be empty. Her mouth went dry. And if I don't? Park Min-ho stepped closer. Then you won't go home, he said simply. The words were delivered without threat or emotion. Just fact. Linda's legs trembled. She looked at Kang Jun-suk. He was watching her intently now, his eyes sharp despite the exhaustion dragging at his features. There was something else there too. Regret. I'm sorry, Kang Jun-suk said softly. I never meant to pull you into this. Lee Sang-woo scoffed. You always say that. Park Min-ho sighed. This is taking too long, he said. We finish it now. He reached into his jacket. Linda's heart lurched. No, she blurted out. Both men paused. She hadn't planned to speak. The word had escaped on instinct, driven by fear and something dangerously close to defiance. Park Min-ho turned to her slowly. What did you say? She swallowed hard, her hands shaking. I said no, Linda repeated, quieter this time. You can't just do this. Lee Sang-woo laughed. Watch us. Park Min-ho studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. You're braver than you look, he said. Or stupider. He lowered his hand slightly, though it never left his jacket. Tell me, he continued, how long have you worked here? Linda blinked, confused by the question. 2 years, she answered. Any family nearby? Her stomach twisted. No. Friends? Lee Sang-woo asked. A few. Anyone important? Park Min-ho pressed. She hesitated. Kang Jun-suk's eyes widened. No, Linda said quickly. No one who'd notice if I was gone. The lie tasted bitter. Park Min-ho nodded, satisfied. Good, he said. That makes this easier. Linda's vision blurred. This was it. This was how it ended. Then Kang Jun-suk laughed. A dry, broken sound, but unmistakably a laugh. Both men turned toward him, irritation flaring. What's funny? Lee Sang-woo demanded. You still think this is under control, Kang Jun-suk said. That's what's funny. Park Min-ho frowned. What are you talking about? He shifted slightly, the chain rattling loudly. You came too early, Kang Jun-suk said. Which means something changed. Lee Sang-woo stiffened. Explain, he snapped. No, Kang Jun-suk replied. I don't think I will. Park Min-ho's patience snapped. He pulled the weapon free. Linda gasped. Before he could act, Kang Jun-suk spoke again. Fast, sharp, deliberate. She already sent the message. Silence crashed down like a physical force. What? Lee Sang-woo said. Park Min-ho's eyes narrowed. What message? Kang Jun-suk looked at Linda. Her heart nearly stopped. She didn't, Park Min-ho said slowly. She couldn't have. She did, Kang Jun-suk insisted. Because I told her to. Linda's mind screamed. This wasn't true. It couldn't be. But the fear on the men's faces was real. What message? Lee Sang-woo repeated, his voice tight now. Kang Jun-suk leaned back as much as the chain allowed, satisfaction flickering across his exhausted features. That I'm alive, he said. And that you betrayed me. Park Min-ho's hand tightened around the weapon. You're lying. Am I? Kang Jun-suk asked. Then why are you here yourselves? Lee Sang-woo's jaw clenched. You said no one knew, he hissed at Park Min-ho. I didn't, Park Min-ho snapped back. I made sure of it. Kang Jun-suk smiled faintly. You missed one thing. Their attention snapped back to him. Me, he said. I planned for this. Park Min-ho stepped forward. You planned nothing, he said. You're chained to a wall. And yet, Kang Jun-suk replied, you're panicking. The tension crackled in the air. Linda stood frozen, barely breathing, as the balance shifted in ways she didn't fully understand. What did you send? Lee Sang-woo demanded, turning to her abruptly. Her mind raced. Say nothing. Deny everything. Survive. I don't know what he's talking about, Linda stammered. Park Min-ho studied her face, searching for cracks. You're lying, he said quietly. Her knees threatened to buckle. Kang Jun-suk met her gaze. "Remember what I said," he murmured. "You're invisible." Lee Sang-woo scoffed. "Invisible people don't send messages," he snapped. Park Min-ho raised his hand slightly, signaling silence. He stepped closer to Linda. "What did you see down here?" he asked softly. Her heart pounded. She thought of the chain, the bruises, the eyes that had waited for her. "A man who needs help," she said. Park Min-ho smiled coldly. "Wrong answer." Lee Sang-woo moved toward the stairs. "We should end this," he said. "Now." "No," Park Min-ho said sharply. "Not yet." He turned back to Kang Jun-suk. "If you really sent a message," he said, "to whom?" Kang Jun-suk hesitated. "Just enough." Then he said a name. The effect was immediate. Lee Sang-woo went pale. Park Min-ho's smile vanished entirely. "That's impossible," Lee Sang-woo whispered. "You taught me well," Kang Jun-suk said. "Always have leverage." Park Min-ho cursed under his breath. "This changes things," he muttered. "Yes," Kang Jun-suk agreed. "It does." Lee Sang-woo turned on him. "You said he was loyal," he snapped. "You said he'd never." "I said he was dead," Park Min-ho replied coldly. "You were the one who insisted on keeping him alive." Silence fell again, heavier than before. Linda stood between them all, heart racing, realizing something with dawning horror. They weren't in control anymore. Not completely. Park Min-ho looked at her again. "You," he said. "You're coming with us." Her breath caught. "No," Kang Jun-suk said sharply. "She's insurance," Park Min-ho replied. "Until we confirm whether this message exists." "You touch her," Kang Jun-suk warned, "and everything you're afraid of happens faster." Lee Sang-woo hesitated. "You believe him?" he asked. Park Min-ho didn't answer right away. Then he exhaled slowly. "Get the truck," he said to Lee Sang-woo. "We move him." Linda's heart lurched. "Move him where?" she demanded. Park Min-ho ignored her. Lee Sang-woo climbed the stairs quickly, his footsteps fading upward. Park Min-ho turned to Kang Jun-suk. "You made this complicated," he said. Kang Jun-suk met his gaze. "I survived," he replied. "You never planned for that." Park Min-ho looked back at Linda. "You're coming," he repeated. "Whether you like it or not." Her hands shook. She glanced at the stairs, at the exit, at the life she'd had before tonight. Then she looked at the man in chains, and saw the truth in his eyes. If she went upstairs now, she'd never be safe again. If she stayed, everything would burn. The choice had already been made. The sound of an engine starting echoed above. The truck. Park Min-ho reached for her arm. She didn't pull away, because Linda knew, deep in her bones, that this was only the beginning. Before we continue, pause for a moment. If you're invested in this story, make sure you're subscribed, because from this point on, there is no turning back. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and the time you're watching. Now let's continue. The truck's engine rumbled somewhere above them, low and patient, like a beast waiting to be fed. The sound settled into Linda's bones. She stood still as Park Min-ho's hand closed around her arm, not roughly, not gently, just firm enough to remind her that resistance would be pointless. His grip was practiced, controlled. This wasn't his first time deciding the direction someone's life would take. "Move," Park Min-ho said. She did. Each step up the stairs felt unreal, as if Linda were walking through someone else's nightmare. The basement light receded behind her, the yellow glow shrinking until it was swallowed by darkness. She didn't look back. Not yet. Lee Sang-woo waited at the top, holding the door open. The night air rushed in, cold and sharp, carrying the distant hum of traffic and the illusion of normalcy. Guests laughed somewhere above them. Music played faintly through the walls. Life continued. Linda crossed the threshold into the hallway, the door closing softly behind them with a finality that made her stomach drop. "You're doing the right thing," Park Min-ho said as they walked. "Cooperation keeps people alive." She didn't answer. They moved quickly, avoiding elevators, cutting through service corridors that smelled of cleaning chemicals and stale air. No one paid them any attention. To anyone watching, they were just another group finishing a late shift. That was the most terrifying part. At the loading dock, the truck waited with its engine idling. Lee Sang-woo swung the back doors open, revealing a dark, empty interior lined with metal. Linda's heart lurched. "No," she whispered. Park Min-ho stopped, turning to face her. "You don't have a choice," he said calmly. "But you do have time. Decide how difficult you want this to be." She looked past him, toward the building, toward the exit, toward the life she had an hour ago. Then she heard it. A faint, metallic rattle. The chain. Her breath caught. They were bringing him up. Two other men emerged from the stairwell, straining as they hauled Kang Jun-suk between them. His feet dragged uselessly across the concrete, his body sagging heavily as if gravity itself were determined to claim him. Blood had soaked through the torn fabric of his shirt now, darkening it further. His head lolled forward, hair plastered to his forehead, but his eyes were open. Still watching. Still aware. They brought Kang Jun-suk into the light, and Linda saw just how bad it was. The chain wrapped tighter than she'd realized, cutting into skin, leaving angry red marks where it had bitten deep. His breathing was shallow, uneven, every breath a visible effort. He looked at Linda. And despite everything, he gave the slightest shake of his head. "Don't." Park Min-ho followed her gaze. "Impressive, isn't he?" he said. "Most people don't last 4 days like that." Linda clenched her jaw. "You said you needed him alive," she said. "This doesn't look like alive." Park Min-ho shrugged. "Alive enough." They shoved Kang Jun-suk into the back of the truck. He hit the floor hard, a low sound escaping his throat before he could stop it. Linda flinched. Lee Sang-woo climbed in after him, checking the chain, adjusting it with methodical precision. The sound of metal scraping against metal echoed loudly in the enclosed space. Park Min-ho gestured toward the truck. "Get in." Linda's legs felt numb as she climbed up. The metal floor was cold beneath her palms. She backed instinctively away from Kang Jun-suk, pressing herself against the side of the truck as the doors slammed shut behind her. Darkness swallowed them. Only a single red emergency light glowed dimly above, casting everything in shadow. The truck jerked into motion. Linda stumbled, barely catching herself before hitting the wall. Lee Sang-woo steadied himself easily, bracing against the movement as if this were routine. Kang Jun-suk shifted slightly, the chain rattling with emotion. "You shouldn't have come," he said quietly. Linda laughed once, hollow and strained. "You're the one who dragged me into this," she replied. "No," Kang Jun-suk said. "They did." The truck picked up speed, the sound of tires against pavement filling the silence. Lee Sang-woo watched them both closely, his expression unreadable. "Talk," he said. "It makes the ride go faster." She ignored him. "How bad is it?" Linda asked Kang Jun-suk, her voice low. He exhaled slowly. "Bad," he admitted. "But not fatal. Yet." She swallowed. "You said you planned for this." "I planned for the possibility," Kang Jun-suk corrected. "Not the timing." "What happens now?" Linda asked. He didn't answer right away. Lee Sang-woo smirked. "Now," he said, "we see how valuable you really are." The truck slowed suddenly, then turned sharply. Linda was thrown sideways, barely managing to keep her balance. "Where are we going?" she demanded. Lee Sang-woo shrugged. "A place where questions get answered." They drove for a long time. Too long. The city sounds faded, replaced by the hollow echo of open roads and the distant hum of the engine. Linda lost track of time, her sense of direction dissolving into fear and exhaustion. Eventually, the truck slowed again. Then stopped. The doors opened. Harsh white light flooded in, blinding her. Hands grabbed Linda's arms, pulling her out. She stumbled, blinking, her vision slowly adjusting. They were in a warehouse. Large. Empty. Concrete floors stretching out beneath harsh overhead lights. The air smelled of oil and dust. Park Min-ho stood waiting near the center, his jacket removed now, sleeves rolled up. "Welcome," he said. "We'll be here a while." They dragged Kang Jun-suk out next, dropping him unceremoniously onto a metal chair bolted to the floor. The chain was looped through rings welded into the concrete, securing him in place. He groaned softly, his head dropping forward. Linda moved toward him instinctively. A hand blocked her path. "Not yet," Park Min-ho said. He circled Kang Jun-suk slowly, studying him like a puzzle. "You should have stayed dead," Park Min-ho said. Kang Jun-suk lifted his head with visible effort. "You should have finished the job," he replied. Park Min-ho smiled thinly. "I'm fixing that mistake." He turned to Linda. "You," he said. "Sit." A chair scraped across the floor behind her. Linda sat, her hands trembling in her lap. "This is simple," Park Min-ho continued. "You tell us what message was sent, who received it, and when. If the answer checks out, you live." "And if it doesn't?" Linda asked. He tilted his head. "Then neither of you do." Kang Jun-suk laughed weakly. "You really don't understand," he said. "Do you?" Park Min-ho's eyes hardened. "I understand perfectly," he replied. "I understand leverage." "No," Kang Jun-suk said. "You understand fear, not leverage." Park Min-ho stepped closer. "What's the difference?" he asked. "Fear fades," Kang Jun-suk replied. "Leverage doesn't." Park Min-ho raised his hand. One of the guards stepped forward, striking Kang Jun-suk across the face. The sound cracked sharply through the warehouse. Linda cried out. "Stop!" Park Min-ho didn't even look at her. "You will talk," he said to Kang Jun-suk, "or I will break you piece by piece until she does." Kang Jun-suk's head hung limply for a moment. Then he looked up. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were clear. "Ask her," he said. Park Min-ho turned back to Linda slowly. "Fine," he said. "Let's ask her." He crouched in front of her, bringing his face level with hers. "Who did you send the message to?" he asked quietly. Linda's heart pounded. She thought of the basement, the chain, the eyes that had recognized her. "I didn't send anything," she said. Park Min-ho sighed. "That's unfortunate." He stood and nodded. Another blow landed. Linda screamed. "Stop it!" she shouted. "Please!" Kang Jun-suk groaned, his body sagging further against the restraints. "Enough," he rasped. Park Min-ho paused. "You ready to talk?" he asked. Kang Jun-suk looked at Linda. Just for a second. And in that look she understood. This was the point of no return. Because whatever he said next would burn everything down. "Yes," Kang Jun-suk said softly. "I'll talk." Park Min-ho smiled. "Good." Kang Jun-suk took a slow, shaky breath. "You want to know who knows I'm alive?" he asked. "Yes." "You want to know who I warned?" he continued. "Yes." "You want to know why you're already too late?" he asked. Park Min-ho frowned. "Enough," he said. "Just answer." Kang Jun-suk smiled faintly. "I warned the one person you can't kill," he said. The warehouse fell silent. Park Min-ho's smile vanished. "Who?" he demanded. "The one who built this empire before you ever touched it," Kang Jun-suk said. "The one you thought was buried." Park Min-ho's eyes widened. "That's impossible," he whispered. Kang Jun-suk leaned back against the chain, exhaustion finally overtaking him. "You should have checked the grave," he said. Lee Sang-woo swore under his breath. Park Min-ho staggered back a step. "Shut him up," he snapped. "Too late." Kang Jun-suk met Linda's eyes one last time. "I told you," he said softly. "Once you see the truth, there's no going back." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Very faint, but growing louder. Park Min-ho spun toward the sound. "No," he breathed. Lee Sang-woo rushed to the door, peering outside. "We've got movement," he said urgently. "Multiple vehicles." Park Min-ho turned back to them, fury blazing in his eyes. You planned this, he snarled. Kang Jun-suk closed his eyes. I survived, he whispered. That was the plan. The sirens grew louder, closer. And in that moment, Linda realized something terrifying. This wasn't a rescue. It was a reckoning. Before we reach the end, pause for just a moment. If you've stayed this far, make sure you're subscribed, because stories like this don't end cleanly. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and the time you're watching. Now, let's finish this. The sirens grew louder. Not rushed. Not chaotic. Measured. That was the detail that unsettled Linda the most. These weren't patrol cars stumbling onto something by chance. This was deliberate. Coordinated. The sound pressed into the warehouse from all sides, bouncing off concrete walls and metal doors until it filled every corner of the space. Park Min-ho stood frozen, his face drained of color. No, he said again, softer this time. That's not possible. Lee Sang-woo was already moving, barking orders into his phone, pacing toward the loading bay doors. We've been compromised, he snapped. Move now. Guards scrambled. Chairs scraped. Weapons were drawn. Chaos cracked through the stillness like lightning. Linda sat rigid, heart pounding so hard it blurred her vision. Kang Jun-suk remained slumped in his chair, head bowed, breath shallow, but there was something different now. Relief. Not safety. Relief. You planned this, Linda whispered. He didn't open his eyes. I planned for survival, Kang Jun-suk murmured. Everything else was chance. Park Min-ho turned on him with sudden fury. You lied, he snarled. You said the message was insurance. You didn't say it was an execution order. Kang Jun-suk finally lifted his head. I didn't send anyone to kill you, he said calmly. I sent them to witness. The sirens wailed closer. Blue light flickered through the high windows. Park Min-ho laughed, sharp and brittle. Witnesses die too. He raised his weapon. Linda screamed. Before the shot could ring out, the warehouse doors exploded inward. The sound was deafening. Smoke poured in, thick and blinding. Shouts followed, clear, commanding, disciplined. Drop it! Hands where we can see them! The guards froze, some obeying instantly, others hesitating just long enough to regret it. The crack of gunfire split the air, controlled and precise. Bodies hit the floor. Linda ducked instinctively, covering her head, her heart trying to tear its way out of her chest. Park Min-ho fired blindly into the smoke. A voice answered, calm and unshaken. Lower your weapon. Linda recognized that voice. Not from the night. Not from the basement. From somewhere older. The smoke thinned. A figure stepped forward, flanked by armed officers in dark tactical gear. He was tall, silver-haired, his posture relaxed in a way that spoke of long familiarity with violence. Park Min-ho's weapon lowered an inch. No, he whispered. Kang Jun-suk exhaled. Took you long enough, he said. The silver-haired man's gaze locked onto him. You always were impatient, Kang Dae-hyun replied. Linda's breath caught. This was the name Kang Jun-suk had spoken. The one they'd feared. The man everyone thought was buried. The architect. The founder. The one who had built everything before it was stolen. Park Min-ho staggered backward. You're dead, he said hoarsely. So was he, Kang Dae-hyun replied evenly. Yet here we are. He nodded once. Officers surged forward, disarming the remaining guards, cuffing them, dragging them away. Lee Sang-woo tried to run. He didn't make it 3 steps. Silence fell, heavy and complete. Linda lowered her hands slowly, her entire body shaking. Kang Dae-hyun approached Kang Jun-suk, studying him with something like disappointment, and something else beneath it. Pride. You look terrible, Kang Dae-hyun said. Kang Jun-suk smiled faintly. You should see the other guys. Kang Dae-hyun turned to Linda. His gaze was sharp, evaluating. You're the waitress, he said. She flinched. Yes. You didn't run, he observed. No. You didn't scream for help until it mattered, he continued. I didn't know who to trust, Linda said quietly. A corner of Kang Dae-hyun's mouth lifted. Smart. He gestured to the chain. Get him loose. Officers moved immediately, cutting through metal, removing restraints piece by piece. Kang Jun-suk sagged as the weight lifted from his body, gasping as circulation returned painfully to limbs that had been bound too long. Linda rushed forward instinctively, catching him before he could fall. He leaned into her, heavier than she expected, breathing uneven. Easy, she whispered. Guess, Kang Jun-suk murmured weakly. You didn't choose the quiet life after all. She laughed once, breathless and hysterical. Kang Dae-hyun watched them carefully. You know what he is, he said to Linda. She nodded. And you still helped him. Yes. He studied her for a long moment. Then he said, That makes you dangerous. Linda's stomach twisted. I didn't want this, she said. Neither did I, Kang Dae-hyun replied. But here we are. They moved quickly after that. Ambulances arrived. Medics swarmed the space. Kang Jun-suk, no longer chained, was loaded onto a stretcher, his eyes fluttering as exhaustion finally claimed him. Linda tried to follow. Kang Dae-hyun stopped her. He'll live, he said. For now. For now, Linda echoed. He met her gaze. You've seen too much to go back to your life. Her chest tightened. I don't want a new one, she said. I just want to go home. Kang Dae-hyun sighed. Home doesn't exist anymore, he said gently. Not the way it did. Linda watched as the ambulance doors closed. As the sirens faded into the distance. As the warehouse emptied, leaving behind bloodstains and broken concrete and echoes of something irreversible. What happens to me? She asked. Kang Dae-hyun considered her. That depends, he said, on what you want. She laughed bitterly. I wanted to finish my shift. He almost smiled. You can disappear, he said. New name. New city. Quiet life. And him. He returns to a world that thinks he's a ghost. Linda closed her eyes. The image of the basement flashed through her mind. The chain. The eyes. The moment everything changed. And if I don't disappear? She asked. Kang Dae-hyun's gaze sharpened. Then you step into something much larger than yourself. She looked back toward the road where the ambulance had gone. I already did, Linda said. Kang Dae-hyun nodded slowly. So you did. They drove her home. Not to her apartment. To a different building entirely. High security. Silent halls. Too clean. Linda sat alone in a room with a glass wall, watching dawn creep across the city skyline. Hours passed. Then the door opened. Kang Jun-suk stood there, pale, bandaged, but alive. You look better, Linda said softly. Liar, he replied, smiling faintly. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of everything hanging between them. You saved me, Kang Jun-suk said. I didn't, Linda replied. You survived. He studied her. They'll come again, he said. You know that. Yes. And next time, they won't underestimate you. Linda met his gaze. I'm counting on it. He hesitated. You don't owe me anything. I know. Silence. Then Linda asked the question that had been burning in her chest since the basement. What happens now? Kang Jun-suk looked out at the city. Now, he said, we take back what was stolen. Her heart raced. And me. He turned back to her. That depends, he said quietly, on whether you want to stay invisible or become something else entirely. She thought of the chain. The choice. The step away from the stairs. I'm done being invisible, Linda said. He nodded once. Then you should know, Kang Jun-suk said, lowering his voice. This was only the first move. Her breath caught. What do you mean? He leaned closer. The message you saw, he whispered. It wasn't the only one. Cold spread through her chest. How many others? Linda asked. He smiled, slow and dangerous. Enough to start a war. The door behind him opened. Kang Dae-hyun stood there, listening. It's time, he said. Linda looked between them. Between the past and whatever came next. The city pulsed below them, unaware. And somewhere deep inside her, fear gave way to something sharper. Resolve. She stepped forward. And the door closed behind them. If this story kept you hooked until the very end, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, the time, and one thing you think happens after this moment. Because this story, it's far from over.